How do companies create a culture and core values that employees actually live out? The team at The Receptionist, a bootstrapped Denver-based software company, sets out to answer that very question. Welcome to the Fabric Podcast. Here's your host, Michael Ashford.
In this episode, I sit down for a chat with our new Director of Customer Experience, LizAnn Nealing. LizAnn has been on the job for a few months, and as you'll hear, she already has a vision and a forecast for taking our commitment to radical support here at The Receptionist and expanding it even further. LizAnn's ideas and goals offer up some great tips and action items for anyone looking to improve their customer support outcomes and culture, including shifting the approach from a reactive one to one that proactively seeks to improve the customer experience. Let's dive in. Well, a lot of new changes are happening to the Fabric Podcast. Maybe not so much. I've gotten rid of the pandemic beard, and we have a new guest here in studio with us, a new member of the team here that we haven't had a chance to introduce here on the Fabric Podcast yet. But this is LizAnn Nealing, our Director of Customer Experience. You're not exactly new, though, LizAnn. How long, as of today, as of recording this, you're 4 months in?
Yes, it feels like it was just yesterday somehow, too, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been great to be here.
I call it the COVID time warp.
Yes.
You know, a month seems like a year seems like 2 months. We have no idea.
What is time?
So, interestingly enough, I'm the Director of Marketing here at The Receptionist. You got your start in marketing. What are we doing here talking about customer experience and support here, LizAnn? Just kind of walk me through how you go from marketing to where you're at now, leading our customer experience and support efforts.
Yeah, so that's very true. I did start my career in marketing. I got my degree and master's degree in marketing, actually. And I did marketing a couple of years out of school. Thought it was great, but was really missing that interaction and the human piece to it. So I got the opportunity a couple of years ago to actually go into a role for a head of customer experience at a previous company. I tried it and just absolutely loved it. I learned that I love helping people solve problems. I love interacting with people. And I really haven't looked back. I really thought it's been just the best experience, and just being able to have that just human element to it has just been the driving force for me to continue into customer experience.
There's an element of customer experience and support that I think scares people, because you're often helping people who are perhaps not having the best day or the best time or experience with your service or your product. What is it about the role in customer experience and support that overcomes that challenge for you?
Yeah, I would say it's being able to turn that experience completely around. We truly do, I think, have the best team here, and I'm sure I'm a little bit biased about that. But we really try to make people's day as best as it can be by providing that exceptional customer experience. So when I joined here, we actually had patented this terminology called radical support. I had never heard of it. I looked into it and I was like, wow, this is a really cool philosophy. Essentially, radical support has 6 components to it. I'm going to look at my notes so I don't mess up all 6. But essentially, those components basically say that radical support is proactive, that it's empathetic, it's company-wide, it's quick, it integrates customer feedback, and it follows up. So I think being able to say support is so much more than us helping solve a technical problem. It's really providing that extra level customer experience, and how do we make that experience go from good to great to exceptional? And we really do try to provide those 6 characteristics in every customer interaction that we have. And that's something I'm really proud of, and something I'm really happy to be a part of here at The Receptionist.
I want to go back to that moment you realized we had trademarked radical support here. And we've talked about that a lot here on the podcast. But what was that like for you when you were like, oh my gosh, they trademarked this. They don't just say this, much like we have our core values written on the wall. We don't just say it.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, LizAnn?
Yeah, it was like, wow, this is a mind-blowing philosophy to me, that this is so important to this company, that we've put so much thought and emphasis into making this something that we try to carry out and live every single day. And the thing that was sort of mind-blowing for me is it's not just in customer experience. It's amongst the whole company. And that is just such a crazy, amazing philosophy to be able to come in and live and breathe every single day. So when I first talked to Andy, when I was interviewing, he's like, yeah, I've been on chat. I've talked to customers. Like, I was like, what? Like, you're the CEO. What do you mean you're like doing all this cool stuff? It's amazing. So I got to like be able to come in and see how does this permeate throughout their whole organization. And then as I've come into the organization and actually seen this in practice, there's so many examples of how the customer support is a company-wide philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we have a hard time troubleshooting something in CX, we immediately loop in our engineering team. They're amazing. They come in and help with anything that we're not able to help support. Sales and CX feels like almost like one big team at this point because we're all in Intercom, and Intercom's our chat tool. We're all in Intercom. We're all doing these things together.
Mm-hmm.
We're all helping each other out all the time. And then even our billing person, Eduardo, he's in Intercom with us as well, helping customers out every single day. So it's really cool just to see how not only is this a philosophy that we've trademarked and we, put a lot of pride into, but it's something we live out every single day. So it's just been really cool to be a part of that.
I'll expand on a point you just made about Eduardo in particular. He and Andy, our CEO, have over the last couple of quarters been intensely focused on the experience of our store on our website.
Yes.
And making sure that from start to finish, it's an enjoyable experience. And I think, again, that goes into radical support. Eduardo even pretended to be a customer, even bought a receptionist in a box from us, had it delivered to his address, just so he could see the experience from the customer point of view. And that flows, doesn't that just flow into everything that we do, LizAnn?
Yes.
It has to, right?
It's incredible. Yeah. So he did this like secret shopper experience and no one knew in the company that he was doing it.
He did a great job of keeping it quiet.
So he got that firsthand customer experience and was able to like give feedback on that, which was so cool.
So I want to then blend our approach to radical support, something that's already been in place, and your philosophy. We have a lot of customers that listen to this podcast, a lot of non-customers that listen, but to the customers in particular, let's talk to them. What are they going to expect from us, from your team in particular, in blending how you approach CX and support with what's already in place here? Yeah. How are you thinking about that, LizAnn?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the other piece outside of radical support that we just talked about that's really important to our philosophy and our values here is our values system, which is Fabric. And I know we've talked a lot about that, but just to give a high level overview, Fabric is our philosophy, and each letter in Fabric stands for a different value that we have. So we have F for fun, A for authentic, B for bold, R for respectful, I for innovative, and C for collaborative. So there's a lot of different ways that we incorporate that into our interactions with customers as well. So when a customer writes in to us, like to your point, what can they expect? They can expect all of those values, but the ones I want to especially highlight are fun. To start. I don't know if you've ever written into us. If you haven't, we highly encourage that you do, even if it's just to say hello.
Just send us your favorite GIF. We just like it.
Exactly. We're big GIF people. So I think that's like so fun. When I first wrote in, when I was applying for the position, actually, Andy had put out a video saying like, hey, this is what we're looking for. If you want to learn more about us, write into chat. And it was like, what? You want me to like write into chat? And I wrote in and I spoke with Zach, actually, who's on our sales team. And he's like sending me gifts. And I'm like, what is this place? Like, it's so fun. It's like such a fun way to start your day. And like to your earlier question of like, how are we taking someone's day from, really having a hard time to making it that like completely turned around experience? Like having fun is such an integral part of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. And then the second piece is our folks are really authentic. Like we have just wonderful people on the team. And one of the things that I found really interesting when I joined this company that has not been the same at other companies I worked at the past is that we actually have our own voice here, and we encourage folks to use their own voices when they're interacting with customers. So if you come in to chat, you're going to be speaking to someone who's authentically themselves and is not using like a brand voice, if you will. So Rain, your experience with Rain is going to be different than Hannah. It's going to be different than Zach. It's going to be different than with me. So I think that that's amazing that we encourage that authenticity every single day. And then obviously there's my favorite value is collaborative. And I think that we've spoke about that just a little bit earlier, but really the amount of collaboration that occurs between teams here. If we can't get you the right answer right away, we're going to partner with the right person who can. And we're going to be constantly helping each other out. And we're going to try to make sure that that customer experience is the best that it can possibly be as the customer leaves the chat. So write into us if you haven't already. We really want to talk to you, and we just have the most fun here. So yeah.
Yeah. Even if you're not a customer, let us know. I mean,
Yeah.
just send us your favorite gift. I've said on this podcast, LizAnn, many times, the work that is done with your team and across all teams is a marketer's dream. And I'm sure you understand this having your marketing background, but we just got an NPS ranking yesterday from a customer, 10 out of 10 mentioned great support. Yeah. And you go to the customer review sites, the G2s, the Capterras, the amount of those reviews that other non-customers are looking at mention support, mention just across the board. I mean, we're a visitor management system. How often do they interact with us after it's been set up? But those moments where they do interact with us are so, I'll just say, there's such a moment in time for folks because of everything you've just mentioned, that it's a marketer's dream. I can take that. My team can take that and be like, shout it from the rooftops.
Absolutely.
Kind of maybe a question that just popped into my mind hearing that then is, do you feel any pressure?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't personally feel any pressure because I have such a great team. Yeah. So I think that's like, I don't know if it's like a question directed at me or just like the lucky position that I'm in. And it's not even luck really. It's like truly like we have a team that is here to help people, and that's their drive every single day. And I don't have to feel nervous or scared or any of those feelings because the team really is here to serve customers first. And I think they just do such a fantastic job. One of the things that, we look at pretty consistently is NPS, and we look at CSAT, and we are tracking these different metrics to make sure we are providing that optimal customer experience. And over the past 3 months alone, we've had a 96% a CSAT score. So CSAT is customer satisfaction ratings. They come in after we close out a chat or an email or basically any touch point with a customer. And for us to come in and say, hey, we have had 96%, like that is amazing. It's hundreds of conversations. Yeah, it is just incredible. So I don't feel any pressure because I just have such an amazing team and I know they're doing right by the customer.
So in the frame of employee supremacy, which we've talked about with Andy many, many times on this podcast, I want to begin to outline your view on customer support, customer experience, and setting expectations for the customers. For somebody who may be wanting to implement employee supremacy, implement, radical support, which we'll link in the show notes, a blog post that we created that lets you know how you actually implement these things. But LizAnn did a great job of outlining those 6 points from earlier. But for the folks listening, setting expectations for folks when they come in. Okay, it's one thing to be fun and one thing to be authentic and be collaborative with other members of the team, but at the end of the day, we're still trying to solve problems.
Absolutely.
How do we do that? How do you think about that, and what maybe can a listener take away and apply at their company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the most important thing, first and foremost, is to be honest with the customer about where we're at. If we don't have an answer for you, that doesn't mean we're not going to get it, but we need to be upfront about that, and we need to be transparent about where we're at with our process. So even if we don't have it in that moment, know that we are with you every step of the way, and we're going to follow up, but we're going to tell you that up front. We're going to say, hey, we don't know. We're not going to try to make up an answer on the spot or mislead you in any way. So we don't have all the answers, but we're going to get them for you. The second is once we are in that process and we're talking to customers, having regular points of communication is really key, because we want to keep you apprised of where we're at with our process. We want to be able to be clear, like, here's the next steps that you can expect from us. And we're going to reach out to you when we have more information for you. So you're not left in the dark. You're not unsure. You're not sure when we're going to get back to you, that kind of thing. Because that can be very nerve-wracking when you're trying to solve a problem and there's no clear outcome or next steps. And then finally, once we are able to get back to you and give you that like additional communication and sort of solve that problem for you and have sort of been with you through that journey, we're then going to make sure that we record your feedback. So we actually have tools internally. I'm going to give the example of a product request. So if our product doesn't do something that you want it to do, we take that feedback and we submit that to our engineering team. And we actually have a tool internally that helps us rank that feedback. So if we have the opportunity to utilize or build out that feature in the future, you're going to be the first to know. We're going to actually have that listed there, and that's going to help us prioritize those different product requests as well. So I would say the biggest thing for expectations or setting expectations with customers is that communication piece and really that follow through as well.
So I think anybody listening to your answer just then would be like, oh yeah, we do that. Yeah, we're good. But we all know, we've all had horrible support experiences.
Absolutely.
Where does it go wrong, LizAnn?
Yeah.
Where in everything you just outlined, honesty and the communication and the follow-up and letting them know when they're going to get an answer, it seems like so many people have the intent of doing that, but it somewhere along the line, it falls apart. Where in your experience have you seen that breakdown happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest breakdown occurs when we have lack of communication between departments. And that's what I've seen in previous roles in bigger organizations. A typical process would be, hey, something's wrong here. Maybe it's a bug. We escalate that to a tier 2. The tier 2 then has to escalate it to engineering. Engineering's super backed up and has a million things on their priority list and doesn't get back to the tier 2. So then we're sort of sitting there at tier 1 trying to work with the customer, but not having that additional information. And that can be a really tricky process to navigate seamlessly. I don't think we have that problem here, which is amazing. And another reason I'm just like so thrilled to be here because our team is very communicative, and we're also a small team. We work directly with engineering, which in larger organizations is pretty unheard of, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have that same level, I think, of breakdown when you're trying to communicate with other departments within the company. We're able to sort of go and have that direct line of communication, and we're able to really work with engineering to make sure that we're providing that best level customer experience. We even have check-in times with our engineering team in Intercom, which again is our chat tool, where they're checking in and saying, okay, is there anything that needs our attention urgently, and how can we help with that? Not so much in other organizations. So it's been a good experience here too.
Well, let's future cast here then a little bit. What opportunities do you see 4 months in to take the foundation of Radical Support and grow it? What can folks expect from us? What things are you excited about? Yeah, let's peer a little bit into the future as best we can here, LizAnn.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to the degree that we can make support one of our part of Radical Support, that I also was like mind blowing to me was the fact that Radical Support can be proactive. And you would think by nature, support is sort of a reactive thing, right? Like it just is the way that it is. It's by nature a reactive type of function of a business, but we don't believe that here. We actually think it can be proactive. So I think like the biggest focus for me is how can we make that support more proactive in the future? What does a voice of the customer program look like? How do we really make sure that we are building out additional ways for the customer to feel very heard and very supported within our business? And how are we making sure that that gets to those feature requests and some of these other things that we're working on internally? I can give like a quick example of proactivity. This was one that I just sort of landed on this weekend by accident, but I think it's like very true to our values and how we want to support customers. So I went and got my hair done this weekend. So I don't know if you can tell. It's pretty good, right?
I'm sure you did it in preparation for this interview.
Yes, absolutely. I was like, I'm going to be on camera. And
looks
I went and got my hair
by
done.
the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So I went and got my hair done, and I walked into the salon. I'm brand new to this area in our neighborhood. It's a suburb of Denver. And so I walk in, there's an iPad on the check-in desk. And I was like, this looks oddly familiar, right? Like I'm looking at it and I'm like, So I go to check in, and like, sure enough, they're a customer of ours. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so funny. Like we're out in the wild. I'm out in the wild and I'm like seeing our customers. I love that. So never been to the salon before, never, was able to, I had no idea they were customers, just like sort of walked in, and talking to this new stylist, and she's like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, funnily enough, I work for that iPad software out there that you guys use. And she's like, oh, actually, we have a good question about that. Like we're trying to do this messaging thing where we have a walk-in. When someone walks in, we don't get the notifications in the right way. I get them and I'm off that day and it's not working for us. And I was like, oh, I can fix that. I can actually fix that for you. So I went home that night, got into their account, made sure that their messaging rules were set up the right way, and then emailed the owner who I had met there as well. She's very, very sweet. And went in and just sort of like helped them fix it. Emailed her that night. She's like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. Like this is so cool that you walked in, just randomly and like helped us fix our receptionist, like in the way that we wanted it to function. So I think that like goes along with the proactivity piece, right? Like that's one example. Certainly, we're not going to go visit all of our customers in person, but to the ones we can, it's great. But I think anyone in this company would have done that, right? Like they would have gotten there and said, hey, oh, you're having a question about this? Like we're all happy to help. So how do we build more proactivity into, as far as radical support goes, how do we build that more into our customer experience? And how do we make sure that we are that voice of the customer? We're helping to proactively go out of our way to do things for our customers that are going to help them. And how do we work with our customers in a way that they feel, extremely supported, but not only that they're supported, but I'm sure as like a marketer, they're fans, they're fanatics, they want to go tell people about that great experience that they had with us. So I think that's the ideal future one day.
That's an awesome story. I had not heard that. So thanks for springing that on
course,
me.
Yeah.
What I'm struck by is, there to underscore the proactivity point.
Yeah.
How long had they been dealing with that issue?
Oh my gosh, months.
And would they have ever called in?
No.
We can't possibly know that.
Right.
But, that for so many software companies, that issue just boils under the surface with a customer who never actually takes the time. A hairstylist is busy. They've got money to make their butts in the seat. They've got to keep churning in customers.
Absolutely.
Getting on a support chat with a company that's their software that they're using, that can be really, really difficult to find the time to do that.
Yeah.
The proactivity, not all of us are going to walk into, like you said, not all of us are going to walk into each one of our customers. But if there's a takeaway, I guess, for the listeners, it could be that.
Yeah.
Look for those proactive signals that someone may be struggling, someone may be not using the system fully, someone may, just checking in to make sure, hey, you've been with us a while. Is the system functioning how you expected it to? I'll just say it. You could have saved a customer right there, even in the long run.
It's very possible.
It's
yeah.
huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, just being able to find those, like to your point, those nuggets of knowledge of like, where should we be focusing our efforts and how can we optimize the way that we help our customers? Is that something in the product that we're not focusing on right now that could be in the future? How are we driving that, driving the way for customers to get the most out of the software in a way that, is proactive and beneficial for their businesses, because every business is different too. Right. But we want to make sure that we are doing the absolute most we can for those customers, and being able to, like I said, elevate to that exceptional experience, I think is really the ultimate goal.
Well, fantastic. Well, LizAnn, it is wonderful having you on the team.
Thank you.
I've learned a few things today, even just from this chat. So if folks want to connect with LizAnn, jump into Intercom on our website, or if you're a customer, obviously within the app, and say hi to LizAnn. Send her your favorite gift. Request her by name.
Yes, absolutely.
and we look forward to, obviously, a long, long time of you bringing your wisdom and expertise to the team, and hope to see you back on the podcast more often.
Thank you.
So.
Yes, I've had a wonderful time. Thank you for having me. And so nice to meet everyone out there in the ether, and hope to see you all in Intercom and chat, and hope that we get to meet one day.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, LizAnn.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Fabric Podcast. Our show is hosted by me, Michael Ashford, Director of Marketing here at The Receptionist, and produced by our creative manager, James Jordan. If you want to see a video version of the show, jump over to thereceptionist.com/fabric, where you can watch episodes of all of the content that we've put out on this podcast. You can see our bright smiling faces, and you can see what our studio looks like as well. If you'd like to give the Receptionist for iPad visitor management system a try in your office, jump over to thereceptionist.com/free trial and give us a test drive for 14 days with no credit card required. See what you think. Until next time, take care.